It's tall. It's big. It's bright. And it commands our attention. Now, the it that I speak of is not myself, even though I have all those attributes. But the it that I speak of is the giving tree that stands in our gather area. For those that came in the main entryway, chances are you saw it. And if you didn't, might I suggest you get your eyes checked soon. Because it's tall, it's big, it's bright, and it commands our attention. It's part of the tradition that is here in our area faith community to place in the entryway this tree that speaks to you and I. And it speaks messages that you and I would be amazed to hear if we just had the ears to hear. Why, this tree just went up this past Monday morning, thanks to the kindness and the generosity of many of our parishioners who volunteered their time and their talent to put it up. And on Wednesday evening of this past week, as people gathered here for the eve of Thanksgiving Day to celebrate Mass, to give thanks to God, why the people were coming into the gathering space, and I was standing out there greeting them and them, as I usually do, and why, lo and behold, in walks a family, and there's a young boy, and he is attentive, and he is looking around, and of course, like little children, he is amazed at the tree. But what he's amazed about is not its height or its brightness or its commanding attention. But the little boy sees a bag underneath the tree already. And he sees some of its contents. And he says in a very loud voice, so that anybody in the gathering area could hear him, he proclaimed this message: "Look, God is getting Jell-O for Christmas." Look, God is getting Jell-O for Christmas. The tree speaks through a young boy a message of truth, the same truth we just heard in the gospel story today. For when I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. A stranger, and you welcomed me. Naked, and you clothed me. Ill, and you cared for me. In prison, and you visited me. Lord, when did we do those things? When did we see you hungry or thirsty or naked or ill or in prison? And Jesus quite simply says, whenever you did it for the least of my people, you did it for me. It's the same message proclaimed in a different time and a different era. The same message of the young boy who proclaimed a few days ago that God was getting Jell-O for Christmas. You see, the young boy understood, and he didn't take any theology classes, and he hasn't spent a whole lot of time in deep contemplation and prayer. The young boy gets it. He understands that when we respond to the needs of our sisters and brothers, we are responding to the needs of God. Most importantly, we are responding to God who is real, who is present, who is made manifest in the hungry and in the sick and in those in prison and those who are suffering and those who are ill. Why, it is when you and I have the eyes of faith, like the young boy did, to recognize that underneath the tree out there, there's more than just a box of Jell-O. But there's a box of Jell-O that's going to be given to Christ. at Christmas. And when we can see and have those eyes of faith to recognize in our spouse and in our siblings and in our children and in our teachers and in those who wait on us and those who checked us out on the craziness of Black Friday yesterday, and those who work each and every day to care for our needs and we who care for them, are we able to see Christ in ourselves and in one another? Are we able to give honor and praise and glory to the Christ that is present to us and reveals himself to us each and every day, especially in the poor? For this is the kingdom eyes that God wants you and I to have. And in order for you and I to have those eyes, he gives to us Christ himself, the King of the universe. That's what we celebrate on this, the Feast of Christ the King. What we celebrate is a king who recognized that it was the sheep that needed healing, the sheep that were scattered that needed to be gathered together again, the sheep that were in need of peace and understanding, of compassion, of love, of forgiveness, of being bound up and lifted up. This was and is the kingdom that is present here and now and needs to continually be built by the manner in which you and I, as disciples and followers of Christ the King, choose to live our lives each and every day, recognizing that in our sisters and brothers, we have the opportunity more than just to minister to our sisters and brothers, but in ministering and caring for one another, why, we care for Christ. We provide Jell-O for Christ, not only at Christmas, but hopefully each and every day of our earthly existence. I believe that the sheep that are spoken of in today's gospel reading are men and women that, indeed, if we were to interview them in their new place in the kingdom of heaven, and if we were to ask them, how did you do it? They would quite simply say to you and I, we recognized the needs that were before us, we acted immediately, we didn't calculate the cost, and it was no big deal. We acted immediately, we didn't calculate the cost, and it was no big deal. It was simply doing what needs to be done, caring for our sisters and brothers who are crying out to us each and every day. So we come to the end of this liturgical year. We, in a few days, begin a new year, a new opportunity to grow and to continue to build God's kingdom here on earth. But let us not wait for Advent to begin. Let us start now. Let us be ever attentive to the tree that speaks to us, a message of hope, a message of peace, a message of forgiveness, a message of love. For that is the tree of the cross that marks this kingdom that is ours and the King whom we honor and celebrate today. And as we look upon the tree in our own homes and the giving tree that is ours, decorated this Advent season, let us listen to the tree. It has a message of great importance. You never know, it might say to us a message like, look, God is getting a box of Jell-O for Christmas.